Don Bosco fought hard for the canonization of one of his oratory boys, St. Dominic Savio. Tomorrow, March 9th, is his feast day. He had to contend with detractors inside the oratory who challenged the main virtue of this 14-year-old saint, his purity. Let's see how Don Bosco dealt with this Judas who tried to smear Savio's image after the boy had died, and in the process dragged his own name through the mud as well. We'll also talk about some miracles which occurred through St. Dominic's intercession and the simple prayer that was said. The Miracles and Prophecies of St. John Bosco, a project of America Needs Fatima. I'm your host, Matthew Miller. Subscribe for new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Don Bosco had a magazine that he wrote to counter Protestant Waldensian heresy called Letture Cattoliche, or Catholic Readings. The January issue of 1859 honored the memory of a very saintly boy who had died 2 years earlier, titled The Life of Dominic Savio, pupil of the Oratory of St. Francis de Sales by Father John Bosco. Its preface began, "My dear boys, you have often asked me to write something about your schoolmate, Dominic Savio, and I've done my best to oblige. This is his biography, brief and simple, just as you like it. Some may wonder why I have chosen to write of Dominic Savio rather than of other pupils, who have also enjoyed a great reputation for virtue. In truth, my dear boys, divine providence has sent us genuine models of virtue, but none of them are as well known as Savio, whose life was notably a thing of wonder. Besides, if God spares me, I intend to collect material for biographies of these other schoolmates of yours." This he did, and I'll link a playlist above with stories of all the other saintly boys at the Oratory. "Meanwhile, my dear boys," he continued, "take advantage of what I shall narrate, and say in your hearts with St. Augustine, Si ille, cur non ego. If they can do it, why can't I? If one of my schoolmates, of my own age, exposed to the same or perhaps even greater temptations, could be a true follower of Jesus Christ, why can't I? Remember also that being a true Christian is not just a matter of words. There must be deeds, too. So when you come across something to admire, don't be satisfied with saying, 'Oh, how wonderful!' Say rather, 'I'll try hard to do the same.' May God give you and all the readers of this booklet good health and the grace to profit by it. Father John Bosco." As a flower's beauty and fragrance show the richness of soil that nurtured it, so the holiness of Dominic Savio proves beyond doubt the excellence of the school that helped him reach such lofty perfection. For these reasons, the devil attempted to discredit his biography. The Oratory boarders had all eagerly gotten a copy of the book. It was to be expected that there would be critics in such a large institution, particularly since Don Bosco gave his boys reasonable freedom of expression. While respectful, the Oratory boys were frankly outspoken because Don Bosco's training left no room for timidity, hypocrisy, or flattery. Let this be well noted because it bears out the important fact that the Oratory boys were not infatuated with Don Bosco, nor did they gullibly believe anything he said. They loved him because he was genuinely good, as they daily observed and verified. Everybody admitted Dominic's extraordinary virtues, but some had refused to see anything supernatural because they were ignorant of circumstances which, until then, had been discreetly and prudently kept secret. Among those who talked rather too freely and irreverently of the biography was a young cleric. Just then, an incident came to light which seemed to support the fault-finders. Now, it must be noted that local circumstances made swimming hazardous and morally objectionable, since it was done in mud holes or creeks and with no clothes at all, subject to the gaze of all passers-by. Thus, St. Dominic Savio had refused to go swimming with those immoral boys who did so. It was strictly forbidden at the Oratory anyway. However, Don Bosco had omitted the fact that the very first time Savio had been invited to go swimming, he had yielded, not realizing it was wrong. The boy who had persuaded him, whose last name began with Z, was a boarding student at the Oratory. He openly denied that Dominic had refused to go swimming, for he himself had invited him and had gone with him. This fool almost compromised Dominic's reputation of purity and was practically bragging about it. His assertion came as a shock. Don Bosco's virtuous narrative of Dominic's life seemed to be in danger of collapse. If one episode proved false, others might be too. For a few days, Don Bosco said nothing in his own defense, not even privately, though he was quite aware of the talk going on. Finally, one evening after night prayers, which were then said in the dining room, he got up on a chair to make an announcement, with a grave look that was seldom on his face. Truth was at stake. But before we hear what he said, I'd like to remind you that if you're in need of spiritual help, you can enroll in our Saturday Mass intentions for the promoters of St. John Bosco by clicking on the link in the description below or by clicking on the Mass logo at the end of the video. Calmly, without introduction, Don Bosco began, "When Savio died, I invited his schoolmates to tell me whether, during his 3 years' stay with us, they had noticed any fault in him or the lack of some virtue. All unanimously agreed that they could find no fault in him, nor could they think of a virtue he didn't possess. As for me, all I have written about him I have either seen myself or have heard from persons in this house, now present, and from other reliable sources." At the start of Don Bosco's talk, some made an attempt to smile, but their grins soon vanished when they saw how gravely the others were listening. Don Bosco went on, "Yet during these days you have heard comments on certain incidents of Dominic's life. Among other things, I have been accused of telling you a lie. Someone has denied that Savio refused to go swimming. Yes, it's true, he did go swimming. But one thing you must know. Savio was invited on 2 occasions. He did go the first time, but when he told his mother about it, he was forbidden to do so in the future. Savio wept bitterly at having done wrong and flatly rejected the second invitation. I decided to write only of this second occasion because the boy who took Savio along the first time and tried to do so again is here among you. I was hoping I had safeguarded his reputation and that he would understand his wrongdoing and be grateful for my silence. Instead, he chose to contradict me and to cast an undeserved slur on Dominic. I want all of you to know, then, that if I narrated only the second episode, it was because I wanted to spare this lad embarrassment and pass over what he should forever feel remorse for, the danger in which he placed himself of betraying a friend. This boy, however, saw fit to reveal himself. If he has to hang his head in shame, it's all his fault. After betraying his friend in life, he resolved to betray him also in death. Once he risked robbing him of his innocence, now of his honor. The boy, thus upbraided, was present. His embarrassment was extreme, as all eyes were riveted on him. Seldom did Don Bosco speak in this fashion. The impression it made is indescribable. When he finished, there was a general murmur of approval. From then on, all gossip ceased. In due time, when a reprint was made, Don Bosco added the missing episode with suitable comments. At any rate, Dominic Savio's sanctity was clear to all from various miracles that occurred through his intercession. One night, around Easter time in April of 1859, Don Bosco read to the gathered community a letter from an alumnus, Matthew Galliano. At the beginning of that month, after 2 days of an atrocious toothache and headache, he had decided to have recourse to Dominic Savio. He recited an Our Father in his honor, and as he came to the words, "But deliver us from evil," the pains and swelling instantly ceased. One of the boys present at the reading of this letter was Charles de Matteis. For several weeks he too had been tormented by a toothache which no medicine could alleviate. Encouraged by his companion's happy experience, he too prayed to Dominic before bed and was cured by morning. Another boy, Hyacinth Matsuko, had been suffering from sore eyes for about a month and faced the prospect of having to leave the oratory unless he got better. On Wednesday of Holy Week, April 20th, 1859, he asked Don Bosco, "Shall I pray to Dominic Savio too? He has cured others who never even knew him. I was his classmate. He'll surely help me, especially since I have to prepare the altar of repose for tomorrow." "Surely," Don Bosco replied. "Say an Our Father and a Hail Mary in his honor." That evening, Matsuko recited those prayers. The next morning, he felt much better, and by Holy Saturday, he was completely cured. Today, there are thousands of miracles attributed to Dominic Savio, beginning with those examined in his canonization process. He was declared a saint on June 12, 1954. Having died when he was 14, he was then the youngest non-martyr to be canonized until Saints Jacinta and Francisco Marto's canonization in 2017. If you'd like to hear about St. Dominic's prophecy about the conversion of England, just click on the playlist above me. And if you'd like to enroll, click on the Mass logo. God bless you, and Our Lady keep you. St. Dominic Savio, pray for us. Let's go, boy.